take the blame for this, we forgot to mention and give a shout out to Don Staley and the South Carolina Gamecocks on their victory in the national championship game, beating the mighty Connecticut Huskies and Geno Auriemma. So a few weeks ago, we were talking about, a couple of weeks ago, or whatever it was, we were talking about the NCAA national championship and forgot to mention the ladies. And actually had all that planned when we came in. Of course, you know we can't forget about the ladies. So great job by Don Staley in South Carolina. And Aaliyah Boston, 6'5" power forward, Eddie. Seems like she's going to be a real true player when she makes it to the NBA. So really looking forward to seeing what they can muster up next year. Of course, you know Connecticut, UConn is always going to be in the mix as far as that's concerned. But also, hey, hold on, man, I have to ask.
She was pretty sick for a little bit, man. It was a stomach deal. I don't know why.
Okay.
I think she got something out of the trash, but she had it did not sit right with her stomach, and it was going on for like a week, man.
Really?
But the cure to that for this one was pumpkin. Canned pumpkin in the dog food.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I boiled some chicken for her for a couple days too. So I took her off the dog food, boiled some chicken, mixed in a little canned pumpkin like it was Thanksgiving.
Okay.
And she loved it. But that did the trick. A couple days of that, and now she's doing much better.
So what type of dogs do you have? What kind of dogs?
Pit bulls.
Pit bulls.
Yeah.
Woo! You know what? Pit bulls are some. Hey, you talking about some dogs, some real dogs with some pedigree. I like pit bulls as well, but I'll be honest, I've never been crazy. I'm just never like super comfortable being around pit bulls.
Yeah, well, it's because they get a bad rap because there's a lot of people who don't know how to handle them, don't know how to bring them up, don't know how to raise them.
Raise them for, okay.
I mean, you love this dog from the time that you get it, and they're a dog that is bred to show a lot of affection, show a lot of love, protect their owner. Very good around children, very good around small animals, even babies. But if you don't raise them with any type of, they're like humans.
Right.
If you don't raise them with any type of social training or social intelligence, and show them that you express love to the dog, not only to the dog but to the things around you, babies, other pets, other animals, that dog's gonna learn to love just like you love.
Okay.
If you don't show that to a dog, or you train it to be mean, or you're abusive towards the dog, then that's when you can hear stories of things happening because dogs are put in social situations that they don't know how to handle.
Well, see.
And then they're animals and they react like animals.
Yeah, because that's where I was going. I watch the news. And it seems like every time I look up, a pit bull is attacking someone.
Yeah.
Again, I like the tenacity as far as if they have to defend themselves and all this and that. But pit bulls, they just have this face. And I listen to what you said right there. And I know some people with some pit bulls. And it seems like when I'm around those pit bulls, and they be like, oh, you know, they're real sweet, blah, blah, blah. But they always have this look. They always just have this look like, yeah, I'm sweet until I'm not. And my thing is, when is I'm not? So, you know, and that's what, hey, I can look at them and say the same thing. I'm sweet until I'm not. So, hey, I'm a German Shepherd. I like German Shepherds myself, to tell you the truth. But I'm not a dog lover like you, but I know that you put some
rip your
things.
face off just as fast as any other dog will.
You know,
hey, I love them dogs. I had one when I was a kid, but those are some dogs too. You see them used for like a car lot dogs and stuff like that. You know why? Because they'll jump up and get you. They're not short like pit bulls. They got some height to them.
Yeah, they do, and they're very intelligent as well. And I'll tell you this, I think I may have told this story before, Eddie. Of course, we're going to talk again. We're going to talk a lot of NBA. We're going to start out. I want to get Eddie's take on some college football briefly. But of course, MLB is in full gear right now as well. But when I was a kid, I actually thought that I actually had a full-blooded pit bull. Come to find out, it wasn't a full-blooded pit bull. Named the pit bull Tiger at the time, not because of Tiger Woods, obviously at that time. This was like 1983, but named the pit bull Tiger because you don't remember, obviously, a wrestler from Houston right here actually grew up across the street from my cousin them over there in Cashmere Gardens, Tiger Conway Jr. And named him Tiger and everything. But come to find, got him, he was like about 6 weeks old, 6 to 8 weeks old. And come to find out as he got older, I'm like, that's not a real German Shepherd. But I kind of regret, Eddie, I kind of regret that I actually, and I think he could kind of sense that I wasn't crazy about him. I was like 13 years old at the time, so I had some resentment for the fact that I wanted a full-blooded German Shepherd so bad, and I thought this was a full-blooded German Shepherd. Turns out it wasn't. And I think he could kind of sense that, man. When I used to feed that dog, Eddie, and you know how you could probably feed your dog. You probably had a relationship where you could probably feed your dog and you could mess with the bowl and do this and that.
Sometimes.
I would try. Okay, I got you.
Well, no, yeah, it's in their nature. They kind of they don't like it. But, I've taught him to not be food aggressive. He won't bite, but sometimes he'll just look at me like, "Are you gonna take it from me?" Or
Yeah. Or do I have to take a bite out of you if you take it from me?
He's to the point where he's getting a little bit older now. Big old fat pit bull. He's to the point now where if he's laying somewhere and I don't want him to lay there and I stick my foot in his ass to make him move, he'll growl at me a little bit just to let me know that he don't want me messing with him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's harmless. He's harmless.
But that's what's up, man. And you know what too? And I still from time to time I think about that because we came from out of town one day, me, my mom, my dad, and my brother. We come from out of town, and the next thing I know, he's missing from the backyard. But it was a couple of times we would leave and go out of town. One time came back, somebody threw something over the fence, and all the skin was taken off his back. Oh, man, I just feel bad for the way I treated Tiger, man. I hate that. But I'll tell you this story real quick. One time I was jogging, right? I was jogging in the neighborhood. And this is in Southwest Houston. I left my condo, I was jogging in the neighborhood, and somebody just opened the door. They just opened the garage door. And the dog just came running out, bro. It just came running out, running right toward me. I just turned and just faced up like, okay, well, it looked like I'm gonna have to fight a dog right now. You know, and it was a little dog too. It wasn't even like a German Shepherd or a pit bull or none of that. It just ran out. And I said, when it ran out of the garage and started running toward me, I didn't run enough, and I just started facing it. And I thought it was probably gonna stop because I wasn't running. Man, that dog ran up all the way on me and jumped up like, ah! And I took a swing at it, man. And I hit the dog in the teeth. But to make a long story short, so we're going in circles, and the owner of the dog, she's sitting back there screaming, Simba! The dog's name was Simba. Simba! Simba! I'm like, Simba, get back. I'm just steady swinging at Simba. He's steady lunging at me. And
he knew you were up to no good.
I was out on the morning job.
Causing trouble.
I was out on the morning job minding my business, man. But they paid me a little something for
They
that.
say trust the animal's instincts. I might have to roll the animal on this.
Hey, man, check
You're
out.
over there up to no good. You're doing something you weren't supposed to do.
And well, maybe that's what he thought because she just left the garage to take the trash. He didn't hesitate, bro. He just ran out and ran straight toward me. I was jogging on the sidewalk and ran straight toward me and just started lunging at me, man. So we were going in circles. I was just swinging. So eventually, after probably about 20 seconds, it all stopped, and he finally ran back to where she was because she was screaming Simba the whole time. So to make a long story short, all I had was a scratch on my hand from actually hitting him in the teeth because he was trying to bite at me. But hey, man, I can tell you some more dog stories and things like that. But this guy right here is a true animal lover, and I respect that. Also, you know what, Eddie? We were not in here last week, but I got home from work this past Saturday, last Saturday, not this past Saturday, but Saturday before that, and turned on the TV, and the first thing I see is R.I.P. Dwayne Haskins. I'm like, what? What the hell happened? So we were not in here last week. Just want to give a quick condolences on behalf of the sports court. Just want to give our sincere, heartfelt, warm condolences and heartfelt feelings to the family of Dwayne Haskins. I mean, a life tragically lost so soon. It's just, man, I'm still in shock. We were just talking about Dwayne Haskins, Eddie, not too long ago, about his prospects, and I was talking about how I'm hearing he's doing wonderful things in the Pittsburgh community, how he's trying to resurrect his pro football career, and he may have a shot to actually start because I think Mike Tomlin likes the guy. And so for that to happen when he's out there in Florida, I don't know all the details exactly about what happened, but he obviously got hit by a dump truck while trying to cross the street, I think. And that's just tragic. A life gone way too soon at the age of 24, soon to be 25 years old. And again, condolences, RIP to Dwayne Haskins, former Ohio State Buckeye, by the way. But I don't know the full details about what happened, but at least we do know that he was out there being positive, out there with his teammates, trying to get better. And so for him to lose his life like that, a life gone way too soon, and that's just tragic, Eddie.
I was stunned to hear it. I know we had talked a lot about him actually having an opportunity this year to really start with Pittsburgh. We know going into the draft, Pittsburgh's looking at quarterbacks, but there was still a lot of talk. There were whispers around the facility, whispers throughout Pittsburgh, that even though they brought in Mitchell Trubisky as a stopgap guy, and even though there were some pretty good quarterback prospects they may look at, that Dwayne Haskins had a real shot to be the starter for that football team. I was a little disappointed in the way Adam Schefter chose to phrase his initial tweet that sort of broke the news for everybody. I thought it kind of shaded Dwayne in a negative light. I'm glad.
What did he say?
Well, it just said that he failed to catch on with Washington and was struggling to catch on with Pittsburgh. Where all the stories that we were hearing out of Pittsburgh actually painted a picture that was somewhat opposite of him actually having success, doing the right things, being a first.
Wait, you said it was opposite of him having success, or it was opposite of him having a lack of success?
It was the opposite of him having a lack of success.
Okay.
I mean, he wasn't dubbed QB1 just yet, but he was a first in the building, glassed out kind of guy, and he was doing the right things.
That's what I was
hearing.
He
certainly caught the eye of head coach Mike Tomlin. And he was going to get an opportunity. I mean, whether or not they were going to make him the starter, I don't know. But in preseason, you were going to see him get some reps with the first guys because they wanted to know what they really had in this kid. They felt like he was just a talented kid who didn't get a good start, thinking about it's more on the organization that he was in than it was on the young man himself. Yeah, he did have some things that he probably needed to learn, but being in Washington, a tumultuous franchise to begin with, didn't do the young man no favors. He spent an off season and a season in Pittsburgh, and things were on the up and up for Dwayne Haskins. So big condolences out to the family, the whole Ohio State family. I know everybody was just saddened and deeply heart-wrenched by the whole story.
Right, and I didn't see that Adam Schefter tweet, but to Adam Schefter's defense, I mean, Adam Schefter is a great reporter. He's great at what he does, and I have much respect for him. I'm sure he didn't mean anything malicious by it. He's probably just being thorough in the plight of Dwayne Haskins, and maybe if that's exactly what happened, like you're saying, maybe that wasn't the right thing to tweet out in a situation like that, but that was probably just a mistake on his part. And he was probably just, the guy is used to being thorough in what he does.
It's an insensitive business whenever you're breaking news on and stuff like that. So yeah, initially, I mean, of course, I'm not gonna call him a bad guy. I just think he was a little bit insensitive, and he should have thought about it a little bit more. When we're not talking about somebody
what he was putting in words.
It wasn't a Dwayne Haskins got cut from the Pittsburgh Steelers tweet. It was, we're talking about somebody's life here, and
about his character,
who wasn't even 25 years old yet. So
right.
It's just a sad story all the way around.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. And to anyone who can make it out, survived by a beautiful wife who he had just married, Calabria Haskins. In a message today, Eddie, she actually thanked everyone for their continuous outpour of kindness. And a full celebration of his life will be held Friday, April 22nd from 9 to 11 with full service immediately following from 11 to 1 p.m. at the Allegheny Center Alliance Church in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So I'm sure there'll be a lot of people, a lot of family and friends. You're going to have coaches and teammates and a lot of players and a lot of ex-teammates. I guess you'll probably have some from Ohio State too come speak as well. Mike Tomlin, I'm sure, will say a few things, but he said some positive things about him. So I'm sure Mike Tomlin was really looking forward. He was really proud of the way this guy was progressing as a person, not only as a player, but as a person as well. And he was heartbroken by it as well, as just like everyone was. So tragic situation right there. And again, our condolences go out to the family of Dwayne Haskins. But I'll tell you this, staying on college football for a second, Eddie, and y'all stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. Turn that game down if you're watching the Atlanta Hawks and the Atlanta Hawks and the what the hell Hawks man again?
The Heat, Greg.
The Miami Heat. Hey, y'all know this? Y'all know something? Okay. I'm thinking about Golden State. I'm thinking about every other team. And you know what I've said about the Hawks all season, they should be better, even though they've dealt with some injuries. And the fact that they won that play-in and they got into the playoffs, you never know what can happen. And they did not look good in game one, but they just have too much talent on their team to not be a threat like they were last year. And as far as the Miami Heat, that's my bad right there, because as good as the Miami Heat have been and as good as they are, they just always seem to slip my mind, and they're the number 1 seed. And I'm not saying that's a lack of respect. Well, maybe it is a slight lack of respect, and it shouldn't be, because I'm a huge fan of Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra, and I know what Jimmy Butler brings to the table. I know what Adebayo brings to the table. So they're a team that's going to be in the mix to come out of the Eastern Conference. So that's my last time forgetting about Miami. I guarantee you that. And so we'll see what happens tonight in that game. So you have the Hawks against the Heat. And then you have, before we talk some college football for a second, but of course tonight as well, Eddie, by the time we get out of here, you have the Minnesota Timberwolves going against the Minnesota Timberwolves are playing the Wolves are playing the Memphis. Hey, y'all, it's been a long day.
Y'all see all that gray up there?
Hey,
he's been hiding it from y'all.
Hey, that's wisdom.
That's an old man right there.
That's wisdom.
That is an old man.
Hey,
right
man.
there.
Hey, man. Slow your roll, young buck, on that. But let me tell you something. I'm as young as they come, and I'm like Benjamin Button around this motherfucker. Come on, bro. Excuse my language. But hey, trust me, if I gave a damn, it'll be dying here. It runs in my family, been getting it since my 30s. That's what you call wisdom right there. But as far as the Memphis Grizzlies and Minnesota Timberwolves, as a matter of fact, speaking of that, Eddie, you know what I want to do one day? I want to do, since he's such a spring chicken, I want to go out there and have a nice race. I bet by the time you get out your stands, I'll be at the finish line.
Ooh,
trust me. But just messing with Eddie Cox. We tease each other like that.
Fast Eddie, man. I guarantee I'm not fast anymore. But
I'm not as fast as I used to be either. I'm not as fast as I used to be.
I don't know if you stayed in shape as well as like a T.O. or somebody.
Hey, speaking of T.O., he actually scored a touchdown. He actually scored a touchdown in his most recent game. In his first game in that league, whatever he's playing in. But Eddie Cox, while we sit here and shoot the breeze. So, we're Memphis and Minnesota. I mean, the playoffs are just starting, and so I'm still trying to get acclimated to who's playing who and what's going on. I can tell you, because usually by the time some of these games come on, I'm in the bed trying to get my rest like you spring chicken anymore. So I like to get mine in so I can stay young as possible. But fresh and ready to go. And I'll tell you this, Eddie, the top 10 in college football, or the top 7, I'll just talk about the top 7 right now, but they released the top 25 in college football, Eddie. And of course, college football season is a ways away. But since we were just talking about the late Dwayne Haskins, again, may he rest in peace. But of course, you know who's probably ranked number 1, right? Who do you think is ranked number 1?
It's going to be Georgia or Alabama.
It's Bama. Of course, Bama is ranked number 1. Let me get my notes out here. Bama is ranked number 1, but I already know the top.
At it, but I guarantee you, where's Ohio State? They got to be 2. You know why? I can tell you right now why Alabama. When you talk about those 2 teams right there, it's about the quarterbacks, Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud. Those are the 2 best quarterbacks in the country. Those are going to be the 2 hottest names on the draft board when we get to this time next year. We're talking about the NFL draft. Those are going to be the 2 guys that everybody's going after. I know there's a little bit of Malik Willis buzz going on right now, a little bit of Kenny Pickett. But next year, when it's those 2 guys that are on the board, and we've got teams jockeying for position, tons of first-round picks are going to be moved around, those 2 guys are going to go off maybe 1 and 2 right off the bat next year, and that's why you're seeing them 1 and 2 right now.
Hey, you're right.
Number 1 team in the country, Alabama, and number 2, Ohio State.
That is real right there, Eddie Cox. That is real, and I'll tell you this. Bama, of course, number 1, like you're saying. Ohio State, number 2, like you're saying. Of course, at number 3. And first of all, Bama, they should be ranked number 1, because look what Nick Saban does every year, Eddie. Look at they don't rebuild. They reload. And that's exactly, and then when you have, like you're saying, the aforementioned Bryce Young, this past year's Heisman Trophy winner, to go along with Will Anderson, And linebacker coming off the edge. Now, Will Anderson is the type of linebacker, that's the type of guy right there that I think he's going to have an impact like a Michael Parsons did. I think he's going to have that type of impact, and that's how special he is. And, of course, you know, they lost some receivers, and they lost some players, but, again, they don't rebuild, they reload. As far as Ohio State, to echo Eddie's comments on that about, of course, they're ranked number 2 because of what they're able to do every year as far as recruiting as well. Ryan Day, of course, you have C.J. Stroud at quarterback, who I think will be the first player taken next year if someone needs a quarterback in that position. As a matter of fact, I think C.J. Stroud is so good, and if you all remember, it's a far cry from what I was saying last year after that first game. Well, after the first half, I was saying maybe they should put in Quinn Ewers, but by the time we came on the show, obviously he had came out in that second half.
He ran Quinn
Ewers right to UT.
Oh, you ran him out of town. You ran him out of town before CJ.
I did call it, didn't I call it, Eddie?
Hey,
I said he's gonna be gone. You're right, man.
Gone.
I said that, and I'm glad you brought up Quinn Ewers. So Ohio State, of course, you're losing Chris Olave, you're losing Chris Olave, and you're losing Garrett Wilson. Of course, they're going to be top picks in the NFL draft this upcoming season right here.
And you know, some mock drafts had Garrett Wilson landing right here in our hometown of Houston.
How would you
Texas.
like that? Before, I mean, not to get too far forward.
Well, you know, I'm expecting him to go defense. Well, interior lineman, add offensive lineman to that. But if it's not an offensive lineman, I'm expecting him to go defense with both picks.
Okay.
But I mean, if you're kind of gonna put your, you know what, out there, just lay it out there and say, hey, we're gonna roll with Davis Mills and we're gonna put talent around him. Then you get you a guy like Garrett Wilson, and you see what kind of offense you can open up with an experienced guy like Brandon Cook to sort of show this guy the ropes. Because I could see Garrett Wilson being a little bit more explosive type of Brandon Cook, same type of receiver where Brandon's not really a big guy. You know, Wilson, he's not a big guy, but Brandon's carved out a really nice career for himself, learning how to operate, you know, within the confines of the offense, and then have explosive after the catch speed, which I see Garrett Wilson coming to the league. I mean, it's almost like a perfect mentor for a guy like that. So if you bring him in, I think it's going to be an excellent environment for him to do well. I think Pep Hamilton would love to have, you know, a little weapon like that. You know, maybe the way that the Cowboys enjoyed having CeeDee Lamb. You know, just seeing how much that really opens up your offense when you've got a guy in the middle of your field that can do work as well as out there on the boundaries. So,
Garrett Wilson is special.
I would definitely have no qualms with it. I would get excited. There's just so much that the team needs, and you feel like they're going to try to build that defensive side first. I don't know. And they need to protect the quarterback, so there's still a lot of questions about where they'll go at 3. To me, it's still Aquanu if he's there. But a lot of people are saying they want one of the corners or one of them big pass rushers. So right now,
I don't think they'll take Garrett Wilson.
don't know. I mean, if Sauce Gardner's there,
he's nice too.
And a big pass rusher, let's say. I'm not thinking that they take Thibodeau there, but they did bring him in. They did look at him. Maybe they're hoping he falls a little bit further. I don't know if I like Thibodeau at 3.
What
about Trayvon Walker, a guy that's got a little bit more explosiveness, a little more upside?
Well, I like Thibodeau. You know, I've had some doubts about Thibodeau. Well, not doubts about his talent. Make no mistake about that. But the fact he's kind of a tweener. Is he a defensive end or a linebacker? But in all actuality, I think that kind of plays into me choosing him at number 3 instead of Trayvon Walker, because you can use him in multiple ways, and you can probably put him at an outside linebacker. Of course, he's going to be relentless and coming off the edge as a pass rusher, but he's like, 6'4", like 260, 250. So I think he can do some damage, and he's kind of inconsistent, but I think once he gets drafted, he's going to want to show everyone why he was a top high school player coming out of high school and why he probably should have been the number 1 pick like a lot of people projected early on. And the reason why I say Garrett Wilson could be a big weapon for them is because if you take Garrett Wilson, and of course you give the quarterback, of course, a tremendous weapon that can score from anywhere on the field at any time. But the reason why I say that is because you can use him in multiple ways. And like I said, even at Ohio State last season, or his tenure there at Ohio State, I thought maybe that he should have been more of a dynamic punt returner, because the times when he actually returned the punts and actually didn't call fair catch, whether it be the coaches making him call fair catch or whatever, it's like he called fair catch way too many times. And there was times where I'm like, dude, run the punt back. I mean, especially in times where, like clutch situations where it's the fourth quarter and you need a big return. I mean, most of the time Ohio State was in the lead, but it was times where the game was probably in a situation where the fourth quarter where, okay, let me take the top off of this and let me break this game wide open and return this punt. Every now and then, whenever he would return a punt, it would be electrifying. But I just thought he called fair catch way too often at Ohio State. And so when he gets to the pros, I think if you utilize him as a punt returner as well, I think he can be dynamic. And so he can set the offense up and put them in great field position.
They might do that, but I mean, if you have a fear of returning the punt in college, why even put you back there in the pros?
Well, see,
and especially when
I don't think it was him having the fear. I think it was the coaches telling him to call fair catch.
Maybe, especially if you can find guys in the later rounds that have returned, a lot of punts at the college level, and who could come in and help you there. Texans have a lot of picks. Now, what if this happens? What if, for whatever reason, Jacksonville, let's say they like offensive tackle Neal at the top, or maybe they like Banu,
from Bama,
and then at number 2, the Lions, they get antsy and they decide to jump on a quarterback like a Malik Willis there, and then that leaves Aiden Hutchinson right there at number 3. The Texans would jump all over him. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean,
to me that would
talking about Aiden Hutchinson.
Yeah.
Because
there's a chance.
Of course.
To me, the Jacksonville Jaguars have to take him at number 1. He is the best player in this draft, in my opinion, hands down. I think they have to take him at number 1. But hey, they may see it differently. They do need help on the offensive line. They're like the Texans. I mean, they need talent all around the board. But there have been reports that they like Trayvon Walker a lot. And also that they like, Evan Neal.
Well, I mean, you can't go wrong. You can't go wrong either way right there. And, of course, Malik Willis, he may fall to – he may either go to Carolina at 6, who's actually entertaining Baker Mayfield. We can talk about that in a second as well. Or they're saying Pittsburgh at number 20. And Pittsburgh needs to go ahead and hire – they need to go ahead and hire the right GM for that job. They really need to go ahead and hire the right GM for that job right there. But speaking of Pittsburgh, speaking of Malik Willis, they said when he was at the combine, the guy has a heart as big as gold, as big as Texas, and he actually was on the streets at the combine in Indianapolis when he was on the streets out with the players or whatever. He actually gave someone some money for some food. So I thought that was a tremendous gesture right there.
To me, he's like a Randall Cunningham 2.0, except he's got the benefit of coming into the NFL at a time where offenses are being built around guys that are dynamic, like Randall Cunningham was. People forget Randall was, ahead of his time. The offenses didn't know how to scheme the offenses up for Randall. So a lot of times he was just out there running around making things happen. Could you imagine him in an RPO offense now?
Yeah.
Or in a modern day Andy Reid style offense or a Sean McVay style offense? Somebody's going to be really happy with this Willis kid. It's just who's going to get him. Now, we know Carolina is head over heels for any quarterback that comes walking around looking that way. Right. Anything walks by, gives them the eye, they're ready to get down on one knee. That's how bad their quarterback situation has been over the past couple of years. They did it with Sam Darnold, and the second that he came home late and wasn't home in time for dinner, they started looking for the next one. And if they are hoping that Malik Willis will fall into their laps, I'm just wondering if there's another team out there like Pittsburgh who says, hey, we're not going to sit around and take Kenny Pickett if he's the second guy off the board. We really like Willis. We want to go up and get Willis, and we're going to go up to 2 to get him to make sure that the Carolina Panthers don't get him at 6.
Yeah, and you know what, too? Something like that happened with me not too long ago. Like every now and then, not that I have it like this, but every now and then I like to surprise someone and maybe pick up the tab on the meal or something. So not too long ago, I was in the drive-thru at a fast food place, and so I asked the people at the, when I got to the front of the line, I said, how much is that? It was a guy that was in a work truck. Like he was on his way to work. It was in the morning. Like he was on his way to work or whatever, and like construction or whatever. I said, how much is the order behind me right there? And the lady said, she said like $40-something, right? I guess he was ordering for the crew or whatever. And I said, okay, now what about the car behind him? He was like, oh, I think that's an older lady. It sounded like an older lady. And I think her order's like I think she just got a hamburger and order fries. I say, today is a lucky day. Today is her lucky day. It's the thought that counts. I got that. Hey, but I want to say.
You saw the more boys in the work truck, you're like, they're going to work.
Oh, they're going to work. Actually, it was just one guy in the truck. But when she said, well, I think he's ordering for a crew. This order came up to like $40-something. I said, what about the person? Like a hamburger? $50. 2 something? Okay. But nah, actually.
Somebody wanted Greg to spend some money.
Hey, man, you know what, though? I only teased right there. That's what happened, but at that time, I wasn't ready to pay for that guy behind me right there. But the older lady, I was ready to help because I'm not a cheap person at all. I'm one of the best tippers, and so that's just a quick story right there. And the Pittsburgh Steelers, if they take Malik Willis, I hope it's Louis Riddick making a call right there. They need to go ahead and hire Louis Riddick, and I mean that sincerely. The guy works at ESPN right now. Give Louis Riddick that job.
It doesn't feel like they're going to make a move right now.
Well, Kevin Colbert is going to be out. I think after the draft, they're going to make that call. I think Louis Riddick has already applied for that job or interviewed for that job. And I don't see... Are
they looking to bring the new guy in right away?
Yeah. I think after the draft is when they're going to make the decision. Okay. And I like Louis Riddick. I like what he brings to the table. Intelligence. Just knowledge.
I'm a little disappointed that...
Great character.
If I'm going to be a new GM coming in that...
Ladies and gentlemen, give it up
Well, one thing about it, I don't think there's anybody that's going to turn down the job. You're talking about a great franchise.
Yeah, obviously you don't want to turn down
because you're going to be involved in the next draft for sure.
I'm going to work it out in my contract with whoever's hiring me that, there's all these, you could possibly draft the quarterback of the future, but I'm not involved in making that decision.
Yeah,
whether
I know.
or not it's Kenny Pickett or
Malik Willis
or Matt Corral or Desmond Ritter, because I've heard every single one of those quarterbacks.
I know, and I like all those guys.
Pittsburgh.
I like all those guys. Well, let me ask you this. Okay.
If I come in and whoever they draft ends up falling flat on their face,
well, hopefully they won't hold that against them.
How is that going to be? Yeah, how am I going to be graded on that?
Right, and hopefully too.
Because
maybe during the vetting process,
other jobs come up, and Riddick is a hot name that keeps coming up. He came up in the Texans,
and he's been
GM
and he's worked as an executive. He's
coming
worked
up in this one
in the front office before in Philly.
Absolutely, and so there's going to be other opportunities.
Well, maybe
if it doesn't happen in Pittsburgh.
Right. Well, maybe. Well, I don't know about this season. I think that's
certainly not this season. But he has a pretty good gig right now.
Yeah, of course. Well, now Monday Night Football. Monday Night Football is Troy Aikman and Joe Buck right now. So they made the move, and that's a great cash right there.
But
Louis
just being
Riddick and those guys
were great. He's great at what he does. He's going on TV.
Damn good. He's damn great at what he does.
And he's being, a GM caliber type of.
But that's why
his connections around the league are second to none.
And that's why I think
Mike Mayock was.
Right.
And then he went
maybe they consulted with him.
Television booth to the GM booth.
Right. And maybe they consulted with him like during the interview process. And maybe through his agent, they've got a bead on who would he take if he did become the GM. And not only him, but any other candidate that they may have as well. But, hey, Troy Aikman and Joe Buck, woo! That's a legendary tandem right there. So they're going for the gusto right there on that. But I really hope Louis Riddick gets that job. I really do, man. I think he's a great analyst, and I think he's great at what he does. And I think he'll be great for the organization to pair with Mike Tomlin. I really do. And as long as they don't beat the Cowboys. But Eddie, real quick before we move off of college football and go to some NBA, Georgia's number 3 in the poll that I looked at. And of course with Ohio State, again, you have C.J. Stroud, you have Travion Henderson at running back, who's going to be a first-round pick after not this upcoming season, but next season. Tremendous running back, great freshman year. Jackson Smith and Jigba, who actually set a Rose Bowl record with 346 yards receiving. So, hey, you got those guys, and then and on the defense side of the ball, of course, Ohio State needs to get better on the defense side of the ball. They have too much talent to be that inconsistent. Now, hopefully, at least the secondary, my college buddy and coached in the NFL for years, he's not a defensive back coach with Ohio State. Tim Walton, and you know what, Eddie? He actually reached out to me not long ago, man, and told us that he watches this show all the time and what a great job we're doing and all this and that, and he loves the show, man. So hopefully he can at least get the defensive backs, which they have some talent over there going. And then, of course, at number 3, you have Georgia, you have A&M, with all the great recruiting that Jimbo Fisher has done. You have A&M, of course. Notre Dame is up there. UT. This really why I wanted to bring this up about because UT, Steve Sarkisian. You remember last year when I said, remember last year when I used to always, and trust me, at the beginning, y'all know me at the beginning of the show, that was some blunt because y'all know my memory is like an elephant, is second to none. But remember last year when I was talking about at the beginning of the season all the talent and all the talent that UT had, and for some reason they just fell off the rails and they stopped performing in the fourth quarter like they maybe needed a new conditioning coach. I mean, because they were running out of gas in the fourth quarter. But you have guys like Xavier Worthy at wide receiver, who's special. I'm going to tell you like that, folks, he's special. Then you got Quinn Ewers coming over at quarterback from South Lake, Texas, transferred from Ohio State. He's probably going to be the starting quarterback. But they have UT ranked high right now at number 6 in that poll, and they have A&M actually at number 5 in that poll. And then at number 7, they have University of Michigan. Harbaugh is back in the mix. We'll be at that game next season in Columbus. Now, the University of Michigan had a great year last year. Harbaugh is back. You know I like Harbaugh, but they're going to get annihilated when they come to Columbus next year, when they go to Columbus. But they're number 7.
After, the talent that they're losing on defense this year and at the running back
Aiden
position.
Hutchinson and the other defensive guy.
Absolutely. I'm curious to see how strong they come back next year. To me, it looks like Ohio State is going to have I'm not going to say easy path, but I think they dominate every team they play on their way to a Big Ten championship.
I hope you're right.
And into the playoffs. Now, what I want to know is Texas A&M and Jimbo Fisher finally going to take some of these killer recruiting classes and turn them into a trip to the playoffs? I don't want to sit there and wait for the NCAA to expand the playoff format for Texas A&M to finally get in there. They need to beat Alabama, and they need to go ahead and finish off the regular season undefeated or with one loss and play in an SEC championship and have an opportunity to go to a playoff game. Otherwise, I don't care about these big recruiting classes. Because I follow A&M really closely. Mm-hmm. I'd probably say they're my favorite college football team.
Okay.
And this is a team every year.
I know you grew up like a UT as well, huh?
Absolutely. But they just haven't done anything lately.
I got you.
But in spite of always having all this talent and always playing some of the better teams in their conference really, really well. I mean, they're one team that's guaranteed to give Bama a run for their money. Mm-hmm. But it's always somewhere throughout the season they falter. They lose to a team that they shouldn't lose to, and they blow their opportunity to make it to the playoffs.
Right.
You have to be near perfect or lose to either Alabama or Georgia, one or the other, not both, to have an opportunity to make it from the SEC if you're not one of those teams. And Texas A&M and Jimbo Fisher every year so far have fallen short. Yeah, and even before Jimbo Fisher.
Right.
So I'm wondering if this could be the year, or maybe once Ewers gets his feet wet, maybe gets a season under his belt, if that becomes the year. And
so he's
going
to have to coach
together a couple of these classes.
Right.
But it's going to have to happen soon because they pay Jimbo a lot of money for him to come in and make that happen. And if you can't get over the hump, I don't care if it is the greatest college football coach of all time. If you can't get over the hump, you're going to find somebody else who probably can.
Yeah.
Even if you're throwing everything but the kitchen sink.
But you know what, too?
He seems to be doing just that.
Yeah, because you know what, too, as far as Jimbo Fisher, I mean, I used to be a guy that was like, okay, he's just a recruiter.
Bama's teams,
he won a national championship,
right?
Huh?
Bama's teams in big games, they don't make a lot of mistakes.
Bama do not make a lot of mistakes. And he's playing in the SEC. He's playing in the SEC.
Mistakes are still being made by your team, by your players.
Yeah.
Then it's not
the talent.
A&M, it's the coach.
And that goes on the assistants as well. And maybe Jimbo will learn from some of that as well. But what I was saying was, I think Jimbo is a damn good coach. I mean, he obviously won the national championship, but he's a great recruiter. And what you do in a situation like that, if you're not the best tactician as far as a coach, obviously you have to know the nuances of the game, and you have to know clock management and making the right decisions in crucial times and things like that. But you surround yourself with a lot of brilliant coaches who can offset some of the deficiencies that you may have in that regard as far as certain things that may get past you as far as a head coach. So you surround yourself with great coaches. But obviously Jimbo Fisher, he was not scared to go to A&M, put himself in the southeastern, because he came from the ACC with Florida State. Obviously he went there knowing that he had to compete against Nick Saban and the great Bama and Georgia. And so the fact that he's done that, I got a lot of respect for him for doing that. And he's recruiting these guys. He has Max Johnson going over there, Brad Johnson, a former NFL player. His son has actually transferred from LSU, so he's going to be there at A&M. So we'll see what happens.
I'm
But
not knocking the guy. I'm just saying he's
I know you're not.
a recruiter.
I know you're not.
But he's got to get the job done.
He has to get it done on the
Saturdays.
field. Yeah, I agree. Because they always have because maybe the way they're doing these polls right now, maybe they're saying the same thing you're saying, and they're putting them in a position like, okay, we think they have the talent to do this. We think Jimbo Fisher is a great coach. And so we're going to place them high right here so they have that chance. If they run the table and maybe even lose one game, if they can just make it to the SEC championship, maybe some of that talent can shine through. But we want to put them in a position to where, because what happens, of course, these preseason rankings are going to change as the season starts. I mean, you still have the transfer portal going on. You never know who's going to transfer, what coaches may end up, But right now, it's pretty much set, I guess, as far as transfers. But you still have people transferring. So it's some things that's going to change, but when you're up there near the top already, it's just a few tweaks, a few breaks here and there where you can make yourself into the college football playoff. So they're positioned right there to do that, as well as UT. So we'll see. Notre Dame, even though they're without Coach Kelly right now, he's at LSU, they have them ranked up high right now. But you know what? Enough football for right now. Eddie, I know you want to talk some NBA, and of course, the Hawks and the Heat. Do we have a score in that game right now?
26-21 Heat.
Okay.
1-game lead, and they lead in the first.
Okay.
5.
Okay, and you know what, too? The Heat, Tyler Hero, and again, I promise I won't forget.
Let me ask you this real quick.
Okay.
Think about,
to mention the Heat again.
Back to last year.
Mm-hmm.
Think about, the Heat were supposedly big players in the James Harden, trade talks. There was talks that Houston wanted Harrow, and who else was that other player they wanted? They wanted to get
Houston wanted from Miami.
They wanted to get Tyler Harrow, and
was it another shooter?
It was another shooter. I can't remember. It doesn't matter. But the Heat were ready to trade the farm possibly for James Harden, but they felt like Houston was asking for a little bit too much.
Okay.
And just look where they are now, the number 1 seed.
Yeah.
They could go up 2-0 tonight, 2-0 over the Hawks tonight.
The Hawks are sad, bro.
I'm looking at
disappointing.
I'm looking at where the 76ers are
with
James Harden.
Yeah.
And even though they're going to go up 2-0, do you really feel like watching this team that they're playing at the dominant level where you feel like you would take them over Miami?
Well, you're probably talking about Duncan Robinson as far as the shooter that it was.
Yes,
okay,
yes, Duncan Robinson.
Okay, so that's another shooter. That's the
right.
shooter they have on their team.
And there was a package of him and a bunch of picks. I don't think Butler was going to be a part of the deal. I think Butler was going to stay. But just think about where they would be had they traded for Harden. I see them more being a team like the 76ers where, yeah, they're doing okay, but when you watch them win these games that they won, do you see them being the dominant team that they'd have to be to go all the way in the East? When I watch 76ers, when I watch James Harden, I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing that James that I used to see in Houston. That was
then you want to talk about 76ers first?
But I'm just saying the Heat could have been that team who put all their eggs in that basket. But look at what they didn't do that. Look at where they are now, and I just think that's
a good move.
Kudos to them for not doing the knee-jerk thing and just making the move for the superstar.
For James
Something
Harden.
we see teams do so often
25.
around the league.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well,
they'll go and get that guy, even if they have trepidations about how it will work on the court. They'll go get that guy just because.
Just on name recognition alone.
Exactly. And the Heat didn't do that. The Heat are winning. They're winning with guys that they're getting, they're signing off the streets and undrafted, along with, the guys that they've built as their cornerstone pieces in Harrow, Robinson, and Jimmy Butler and Adebayo.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And you know what? Too, and we'll talk about James Harden in a second. But you're right; they did make the move on James Harden because. Well, we'll talk about James Harden in a second. But as far as the Miami Heat are concerned, when you have a guy at the helm like a Pat Riley, who when you go there, you know that you're gonna have to get in line and you're gonna have to fit in with the culture. He's a no nonsense kind of guy. You know his resume. He's coached the greats like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Magic Johnson, James Worthy. I mean, the guy has championship pedigree. Of course, he coached the Miami Heat for a few years as well. The New York Knicks, of course, as well. But, of course, he made his hay with the Los Angeles Lakers. So, when you go in there, you know that you're dealing with a legend and a guy like Pat Riley that's at the helm as an executive. Then you have Eric Spoelstra, who's took the reins and learned under Pat Riley, learned what Pat Riley was expecting out of him, got some pointers and got some tips from Pat Riley, of course. And hey, he's taking it and ran. Not that all the credit goes to Pat Riley, but Eric Spoelstra's success. Eric Spoelstra was a great young coach, obviously, and Pat Riley was able to realize that and figure that out and just helped him out with some things to really get him to the level that he's at now. So again, no disrespect to the Miami Heat, but Miami, and this just it right here. They just kind of fly under the radar. They're consistent, but they just kind of fly under the radar what they do, because you would never believe that they're a number one seed because they don't get the accolades and the hype and the attention on television. I mean, look at it when we first started the show. I'm like, okay, the Miami Heat, now it's 30-30 right now. But I will say this about the Miami Heat. When you really watch them play, you know they're going to play some tenacious defense. You know Eric Spoelstra is going to make in-game adjustments to a great degree. And you know they're going to play, you know they're going to be tough, and they're going to play as a team. And that's one thing I noticed about them. And you have guys on that team with some attitude, like Jimmy Butler, Adebayo. So they have some talent. And, of course, Hero and Duncan Robinson, those guys can shoot the ball. So do I think that they can make a move in the East? Absolutely, I think they can. If I had to pick right now, I would still say it's the Milwaukee Bucks right now. But Miami, I cannot and I shall not sleep on the Miami Heat. Once again, right now they're in the dogfight. They're in the dogfight right now with the Hawks. It's early, but the Hawks are a team that I thought that should be contending in the Eastern Conference. So they've been a disappointment. But these first-round matchups have been, I'm talking about great. Again, tonight, we're going to watch the Grizzlies and the T-Wolves, Ja Morant, but let's harken back to last night real quick. Golden State. You had the Golden State Warriors last night. Of course, they're playing against the Denver Nuggets. And, of course, y'all remember, I picked Golden State. I picked Golden State during the preseason when I saw them play. Remember during the preseason when I was talking about Jordan Poole, and I was like, remember that show when I said, hey, Jordan Poole is putting up like 20 a game in the preseason. I know it's just the preseason, but I like what I'm seeing from this guy. He's really elevated his game, and I like the way they got that ball movement back going and the way they were connecting, and they were clowning on the defensive side of the ball as well. I said, Golden State is going to win it all this year. Of course, I was banking on James Wiseman coming back, and I still think they're going to win it right now, even without James Wiseman. But just imagine if he was back. But Jordan Poole, I said during preseason, Golden State is my pick. And Jordan Poole has not disappointed whatsoever. You're talking about a superstar in the making. And what did I say, Eddie? On one of these past shows not too long ago, I said the presence of Andre Iguodala, even though he's not going to get major minutes, but I saw an interview with Jordan Poole the other day, and he was talking about how much of an influence Andre Iguodala is as far as just showing him how to be a professional, showing him the ins and outs and nuances of what's going on the floor, when he comes to the bench. So even though Iguodala was injured, and you might say, okay, well, he was on the bench, blah, blah, blah. He probably wasn't on the bench every game, and he's probably not invested. And every now and then they give him a few minutes just to get some things in order and just to give him some run. The guy has 3 championships with that team. But what Jordan Poole is doing, and the thing about it, and I said when they were sputtering at the end of the season, I said that, okay, I want to wait and see how Draymond looks when he comes back. I said, because I don't know about these back injuries. Man, let me tell you, he had a herniated disc, Eddie. I like to say he have an activated disc, if you ask me. I mean, what he brings to that team on the defensive side of the ball and just the mindset period, the way he gets those guys ready to play, and on the offensive side, the way he gets everybody in position to do what they're going to do, it's showing improvement in these playoffs. But he's brought back the intensity, and he's giving Jokic all kinds of problems right now. And we're talking about Jordan Poole. What did I also say a while back when I talked about Klay Thompson? I said, okay, that knee is getting sore right now. I said, he's inconsistent right now, but as long as he's clicking when the playoffs start, he's going to round into shape. And that's what's happening. And Jokic, granted, they're playing the Denver Nuggets without their second and third best players in Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. So, granted, they should sweep the Nuggets. The Nuggets may get one game in Mile High, but it'll be a gentleman's sweep. But even if they had those guys, of course, it would make the series tougher. But I just think the way Golden State is connected right now, the way they're locked in, how physical they are, how active with their hands, and we're talking about Jordan Poole, Steph. You saw Steph coming off the bench. Of course, Steph is not going to be coming off the bench. Maybe for the rest of this series. And that's Steve Kerr kind of posturing in a way kind of subtly saying and letting everyone know, hey, he's a superstar. These some superstars on this team, but I'm the head coach, and I'm going to play who I want to play and start who I want to start until further notice. That's just him kind of posturing of course, he's on the same page with Steph Curry. Of course, I'm sure they talked about it and all this and that. But I think that's just kind of him saying, hey, I'm in control of this team. So anybody who thinks that I'm just coaching a team full of superstars, let's not forget that I am the head coach and I make the decisions on this team. And I think that's what Steve Kerr is kind of doing. Of course, he's letting Steph round into shape as well. But we're not even talking about Andrew Wiggins, who's also along with Draymond Green, because Jordan Poole is getting all this. And I like Andrew Wiggins' attitude right now, Eddie. The fact that he knew when Klay Thompson came back and the ascension of Jordan Poole, he doesn't mind taking a step back. But we're talking about another, I mean, everybody, Jordan Poole, Klay, and Steph. Yeah. And that other guy that made an all-star team. And not just because of his offense, because of his defense. So if any one of those guys falter at any point, you have Wiggins who can go get 30 or 40 on any given night. To go along, hey man, I just think Golden State right now, the way they're playing on both sides of the ball, obviously it's the first round. And again, the Nuggets are shorthanded right now without their second and third best player. So we'll see. Of course, it's going to be stiffer competition moving forward. But I just like what I'm seeing. Obviously, yeah, obviously.
They made a statement, last night, like you said, in the second quarter, they're trailing Denver by about 10 points. And then by the end of the third quarter, let's say I think there was 7.5 minutes remaining in the
they couldn't miss a shot
in the second. By the end of the third quarter, they were up 101 to 81.
Yeah.
They reeled off I don't know how many points in less than a quarter and a half.
Yeah.
It was incredible.
Yeah.
It was almost 70 points they reeled off. It was incredible.
Jordan Poole had 29. But Steph had 34.
What I want to ask you this is
Klay had 21.
You say Wiggins, doesn't have a problem taking a step back. Steve Kerr has flashed what some are calling a new death lineup with instead of KD, Harrison Barnes, and Steph and Klay and company. Now you have Steph, Klay, Wiggins, and Poole along with Green all on the court at the same time. What do you think about that? I don't know what they're going to call it yet. CBS Sports says it's yet to have a nickname, but this is a lineup that could give a lot of teams some problems just because of the sheer athleticism. And you think about who would be leading that team, as their point guard. I don't think there's anybody better than Steph Curry to lead a team like that. A 3-guard, almost college style lineup with Draymond Green anchoring down the middle. What do you think about that?
Hey, it's a very, very athletic, and Steph has never been known for his athleticism. But what it does, it gives you a chance as defenders to switch and cover multiple positions. And then you have a guy like Andrew Wiggins, who's probably going to make first team All-NBA on the defense side of the ball this year. Of course, Draymond, what he brings on the defense side of the ball as well. But you have guys that can switch on defense. Klay is not the defensive player that he once was. He's probably going to round back into shape more like next season. But that's why you have Andrew Wiggins there to take the responsibility that Klay would normally take or that he's taken in past years in the playoffs or just going against formidable opponents. So I love that lineup because it gives you 3 players or 4 players, 5 players who can actually create their own shot, initiate the offense, break you down from the offensive end, go get their own shot, and then it spreads the floor because you have shooters all around, so you can spread the floor. And another thing about Steve Kerr, what I like about Steve Kerr and his coaching style, because he doesn't get enough credit. He doesn't get enough credit, in my opinion, on his coaching style. Like I was saying that about what he's doing with Steph Curry, but also everybody, look at Gary Payton Jr., Gary Payton II is what they call him, and all these guys, everybody that goes there, they know their role, they fit into the system, they adapt to the system, and they adapt quickly, and they all play hard for him, man. And hey, I like Steve Kerr, and I like what he's doing, and it's not just about how great those players are. I think he puts them in a great position to succeed. I really do. And certain times when he will call a timeout, like if the other team is making a run, I think he uses his timeouts wisely. He knows the pulse of his team, and I really like what he's doing. And I'm really looking forward to seeing if Golden State can continue to muster up this same energy. Because what I was saying at the beginning of the season, before they kind of sputtered a little bit with injuries and stuff, I said what I'm noticing is about Golden State is not only the talent and not only them still being as great as they've been, but the fact that they're still hungry, the fact that they still want to go out and get another championship. They're not resting on their laurels with 3 championships, and they're just as hungry as Chris Paul and Phoenix is. So that's going to be very interesting, man. And real quick, before we talk about Phoenix, I know that's who you picked. What I'm seeing from Minnesota right now, and Eddie, and you heard me mention Minnesota a few weeks ago and a couple of times, but Minnesota's kind of flown under the radar as well. The radio tongue twist right there, tongue twist. But the thing about it, Minnesota, hey, they've been good and consistent all year and a lot better than I expected. But you have Karl Anthony Towns, who's coming to his own as a player, former number 1 pick. Anthony Edwards, number 1 pick, who is a dog. D'Angelo Russell, former Ohio State player, man, I'm going to tell you what's flying under the radar for Minnesota. Not only is Anthony Edwards a superstar, I talked about that a few weeks ago as well. Not only is he a superstar at 20 years old, what this guy is doing, his attitude, he reminds me of Luka. And you know why I love Luka so much? His attitude and this swag on the floor. But Anthony Edwards, not only does he have that, he has talent and he has confidence and he can go get it done. You pair that with Karl Anthony Towns, who's coming into his prime, or he's in his prime right now, and D'Angelo Russell, he's going to have to do what he can do. But Patrick Beverley, he's brought an attitude to that team and a belief to that team. And the Grizzlies have their hands full.
He does it with every team that he's been on. I mean, as long as you've known him from here with the Rockets to the Clippers, and everywhere he goes, he's an integral part of what they do because they will deploy him on a certain member of another team's offense and have him just frustrate the guy. And he's good at doing that without getting in extreme foul trouble.
Right.
And he
get all up in your clothes.
He has his nights where he can get hot from 3 and he can really help his team out in that way. And we've seen him have success here in Houston with that before. He's just an all-around, I call him, he's like a fan favorite grinder type of guy that when he's on your team, you love him. When he's not, you can't stand him.
That's right.
I liken him to a Draymond Green. He just has a way of getting under other guys' skin without being dirty.
Without
being dirty.
Sometimes without being dirty.
Now,
at least as a
Draymond, but as far as Beverly, I haven't ever seen him make a dirty play. I think.
Well, you remember against Russell Westbrook years back when Russell Westbrook, the first time I heard his name
coming in hot. I mean, they were both going at each other.
He didn't look at it as dirty. He's just an aggressive, intense guy. So I wouldn't call him a dirty player either. He's just, he's intense. He's intense. So, of course, again, Anthony Edwards, and of course, Ja Morant and them and all those guys in Memphis. We'll see who wins the series. I just want to see a great series, to tell you the truth. And I'm rolling with Golden State. Make no mistake about it. But again, I wouldn't care if Chris Paul won. I just want to see some great playoff basketball. At the end of the day, I could care less, at the end of the day. But I tell you this, Anthony Edwards in Minnesota, they've made this very interesting with Minnesota because I'm on record as saying I think Memphis could challenge in the West. Now, they better win this game tonight, obviously, because it's going to be tough sledding going back to Minnesota. You're not going to win 2 games in Minnesota, in my opinion. So I think this is a must-win for the Memphis Grizzlies. Of course, Memphis with Ja Morant, and they have all this swagger, and they're well-connected, so much chemistry as a team, and they do a lot of barking and stuff too, which I don't mind. I like the swagger. But I tell you what, again, they're meeting some young guns, and Anthony Edwards and those guys, and Patrick Beverly, who's an older gun, and he's showing them the way like, hey, we're not backing down from this team. So Minnesota is legit. And so we'll see if Memphis comes out tonight and really puts their foot on the gas and gets it done. It's going to be tough for Minnesota tonight because Memphis, Hey, but James Harden, like I said, he doesn't have that quick first step like he had, and he's not. I think moving on in the playoffs, they're gonna have to really get him up to par. He's gonna be needed more on the offensive end, more so than he's needed right. Boy, you're a bad man. You're a bad
Harden
man.
was, to me, he's never really a winner. He's never a guy who turned it up when the lights were the brightest and the stage was the biggest. And now that he doesn't have that quick first step,
yeah.
I mean, that was the thing that I loved watching about James Harden was how fast he blow by you.
Yeah,
I
know.
His handles didn't look like they were that great, but all of a sudden he takes that quick step and he's by you, left or right. You know,
and gets to the foul line.
Now he doesn't have that anymore.
Hey, remember I said that a while back when they first acquired him? Go ahead.
And what did he have the other night?
He had 14, but they won the game. It's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to pile on them while they're winning the game.
Yeah, because we're talking about a guy who has.
But moving on, they're going to need him to get over to the championship level.
50-point games for the franchise for the Houston Rockets.
I know.
I mean, this is a guy who could get to the cup at any time.
Yeah.
And now he's a 76er, and they're tied to their success is tied to him. It seems like
I agree.
For the foreseeable future.
I agree.
I just don't know. I don't see it getting any better. And I don't know if I see them as a true contender this year in the East.
You know what? And I've said that as well because, and not so much, it's not an indictment on the great Joel Embiid, who's probably going to win MVP between him and Jokic. And speaking of Jokic, boy, Draymond is doing a hell of a job. I mean, they're beating him up with that physicality because he doesn't have his other horses to help him out. But, hey, man, James Harden, I mean, Philly, I just think with the aforementioned Miami Heat, the Nets, of course, and I say the Nets, we're going to talk about them real quick before we get out of here as well. But the Nets, the Heat, the Bucks, who won the championship last year, I just think with James Harden not being as explosive as he once was, I just think that's really going to deter them from actually getting over that hump and making it to the championship this season. Because like we're talking about, you saw what he did while he was on some other championship contending teams, and just he didn't have the help that he did, but now he's not getting to the free throw line because they're not calling all those calls like they once were. And we'll see. I still think he's going to have a very important monster game at some point where he's probably going to put up 30 to 35, and everybody's going to be like, well, maybe he's back.
The shots have been falling.
Right.
It seems like every time that his team really needed it from him that night.
Yeah, that's true.
Didn't get it.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, and now he's 32 years old, so he's not going to get even more spry than he was as far as his legs are concerned.
Isn't it weird that everybody the talk in Houston was before things soured with James Harden, the talk was, man, his game's going to age so well.
Yeah, it sure was.
He's going to be able to play the way he's playing, drawing those fouls, hitting those step-back threes, getting to the cup in crafty ways where he's extending the ball away and getting
right.
And his game's going to age
They changed some of the rules, too.
And then he leaves, and now you're getting to look at, maybe it's not, and maybe it's not because it's his game. Maybe James Harden is just so freaking lazy that he just isn't putting in the effort, and he doesn't care. Maybe he just doesn't really care.
That could,
he's still king.
It's easy not to care. But you know what, too?
And he is a rich man.
Yeah, that's it right there. It's easy not to care when you have all that kind of money. But again, if that's how you want your legacy to be filled, like the way he departed from Houston, the way he departed from the Nets. Of course, there was some other factors going into the Nets situation, in my opinion. But if that's how you want to be remembered, as a guy that departed in the fashion that you did, hey, bro, go and play yourself. I mean, I sit back and let people play themselves. So that's James Harden. But again, Eddie, like we're saying, with the kind of money that he has, you may have a point right there. He may be a guy that probably just does not put in the work. He's putting in the work at the damn strip club, I bet you that. But you can do that and still put in the work. Now, I don't know this. Now, I've heard some people say that he's a gym rat as well. He did go to Philly and lose some weight. So we'll see. I just think he just doesn't have the legs that he once had. But we'll see if he can turn up a game or two.
When you look on the sidelines during a timeout, and he'd have giant ice bags on his
man, Eddie, I'm glad you brought that up.
I'm like, damn.
I know. Eddie.
Looks like Kelvin Cato over there on the side.
I'm glad you brought that up, bro. Hey, you listen to the Sports Court. I'm Greg. That's Eddie. We have about 10 more minutes, then we're going to get out of here. The show that keeps it 100% of the time. But I'm glad you brought that up because we were talking about Minnesota and Anthony Edwards. That's what I noticed, too, toward the end of the season. Now, he's had a couple of knee issues, and I think maybe he can stand to lose. At that young age, he's a thick guy. He's a big guy. But I think he could probably lose maybe about at least 5 to 10 pounds. I think he'll even be that much more explosive. But I seen him on the sideline with those big old ice packs. I'm saying to myself, bro, I know I know it's maintenance, but at 20 years old, that's not a good look to be over there with 2 big old ice packs on your knees like that. Now, I don't know if I'm trying to read into that too much or whatever, but the fact of the matter is you had 2 big ice packs on your knees and you're 20 years old. And I didn't like that. But real quick about the Nets, Eddie. Now, they had their hands full with the Celtics. Of course, Marcus Smart.
I'm telling you right now, they're not going to make it out of the first round. The Celtics are going to put them to bed. Did you see that buzzer beater by Tatum turning around, turning his back to the basket, going up off the backboard in just a nick of time?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Hey, right. And you know who was on too? Kyrie. And I'm on record saying I'm not the biggest Kyrie fan in the world. I mean, he seems like a cool guy off the court. I just don't like some of his self-absorbed ways as far as how it relates to impeding the progress of his teammates from time to time. I'm all about individuality and being yourself and beating to your own drum. Trust me, I'm all about that. But some of his ways just kind of rub me the wrong way. I've always said a tremendous basketball player. He showed that in that game. But but everybody's talking about what Kyrie did. The fact of the matter is they lost. I don't care about him scoring 39 points and they lost. And I don't have a problem with him what he did. Now, as far as his comments and the things he was doing during the game, I don't have a problem with that. Now, I just think in a situation like that, and KD's probably going to. The thing about KD and Kyrie, like I said before, when I made that rant about the Nets not going to do a damn thing, it was really frustration on the fact that I thought he was leaving Kevin Durant without a true opportunity to get a ring this year. And of course, James Harden as well. You see James Harden eventually exited as well. But I think I don't disagree with what he did because, of course, it's easy for me to sit here and play Monday morning quarterback or whatever and say maybe he should have did this or should act like this. People kill me with always saying, well, hey, I would have did this and I would have did that. You don't know what you would have did unless you were in that situation. So people can miss me a lot when they say what they would have done in a situation like that. But what I will say about Kyrie in that situation, in that particular situation, if you know, as Kyrie Irving, if you know that you're going back to Boston, and you know that you're going to get those rants, maybe he was just expecting, Kyrie, you suck, or Kyrie, you're trash. But when they started calling him out his name, calling him an MF and a bitch and all this and that, I think that's when he lost his cool. But he probably should have anticipated that as well. And then you could have been player about it. You probably could have went in the press conference and let them kind of just bring it to you in a certain way.
You said that, but here's the thing, Greg. When has Kyrie Irving ever just been player about anything? That's never been his persona. Yeah. He's not just player about things. He's outspoken at times.
He's gonna disarm you though.
He's
gonna be smooth when he gets up there and talks.
He's had opportunities to be a key cog in what was supposed to be a super team or a team that can make multiple championship runs. Yeah. For whatever reason, it just does not work with this guy. So did you see? I don't know if you saw the tweet where LeBron James was like, "How is he not a top 75 player?" And it has nothing to do with his overall talent and what he's capable of doing on the court. It's because there's always something happening that's keeping him from having success, whether it's bad chemistry amongst the teammates, or it's injuries, or it's COVID, or you can't play at home.
That's why I'm not a big fan of.
And that's why people have just had their fill of Kyrie Irving.
But you know what, too, Eddie?
That's why he's not rated as high as maybe he should be if he would just been as good a basketball player and has been as good off the court as he is on the court.
Yeah, I mean, you know what?
Out there.
I mean, you know what, too? I don't want to belittle the guy. Excuse me. I don't want to belittle the guy too much because he is a great player. But we're talking about things that we've noticed off the court that's alienated some teammates. But then when you watch him with his teammates, watch him interact, again, he keeps those guys at bay with how smooth he is and all this and that. Now, if he would have got into that press conference, if he would have got in there and been like, okay, well, the crowd, they tried to pump me or whatever, blah, 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 but I'm about to get in this press conference right here, and as soon as they ask me about it, then I'm going to be like, they could have been like, Kyrie, so what do you think about them calling you, blah, 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 them calling you an ML? Hey.
Another thing,
F them too. You know what I'm saying? Then you play it like that.
A lot of these guys, a lot of the players that play at the professional level in the Northeast, they just tune it out because they know that there are some of the
especially in Boston.
There are some of the biggest blowhards, whether it's Boston, New York, Philly, they all got their blowhards that are gonna let you. They're gonna let you have it whenever you're there, and they don't like you.
Well, remember Vernon Maxwell ran him into the stands.
Yeah,
He ran him into the stands.
We're living. This is a new NBA. This isn't the Malice
Can't
in the
do
Palace.
that. Can't do that. Malice in the Palace.
Ron
So
Artest.
yeah, but I thought that maybe he should have been more. He should have anticipated any kind of vitriol coming from Boston and maybe kept his cool during the game. Again, I can't sit here and say that if I was or if I was Chris Rock, that I would have made sure that Will Smith didn't get off that stage right to fight. I can't say that and then get on Kyrie for defending himself in that situation. Because to be honest with you, if I was in that situation right there, and I'm saying all this right now, I mean, I probably would have shot, hey, take these birds too. But again, he had time to really think about it and really see where he was coming from. You could have played him and gotten a press conference and spewed whatever you want to spew right back at him in a clever kind of way. But still, if you want to use your profanity in the press conference and do your thing. So, hey, I mean, it is what it is. But as far as on the basketball court, the Boston Celtics, now they're playing without Robert Williams. KD is going to have to go for 40, 45 next game. But the thing about those two guys, and why I said I'm never really a believer in them, because for one, I don't like their depth. For one, as great as Kyrie can be, I don't think he's going to have that game. Next game, I think he's probably going to have 20 to 25 points. You're playing against a great defensive team. I think KD is going to go off. But Kyrie has to play defense too. That bucket that they scored was on Kyrie. Everybody's talking about what Kyrie Irving is doing. He scored 39.